your video. All right. So the Alchemist, Santiago, has decided to go with the Alchemist, and he was like really not sure about that. And he was like, I should just stay in the Oasis. I have everything I need here, and especially Fatima. He's got a big old crush on her. Actually, it's more than a crush. They love each other, apparently. And she said, you know what? I get it. I understand. I know that you'll come back. And so she kind of gave she gave him her blessing, and we'll see what happens. So off he goes. I'm on page 123 today. Don't think about what you've left behind, the alchemist said to the boy as they began to ride across the sands of the desert. Everything is written in the soul of the world, and there it'll stay forever. Men dream more about coming home than about leaving, the boy said. He was already reaccustomed to the desert silence. If what one finds is made of pure matter, it will never spoil, and one can always come back. If what you had found was only a moment of light, like the explosion of a star, you would find nothing on your return. I feel like I read this. Maybe my sticky fell out. Sorry, guys. The man was speaking the language of alchemy, but the boy knew that he was referring to Fatima. It was difficult not to think about what he had left behind. The desert with its endless monotony. Oh, yeah, I remember this because I struggled over that word, and I'm struggling again. Monotony. There we go. Put him to dreaming. The boy could still see the palm trees, the wells, and the face of the woman he loved. He could see the Englishman at his experiments and the camel driver who was a teacher without realizing it. Maybe the alchemist has never been in love, the boy thought. The alchemist rode in front with a falcon on his shoulder. The bird knew the language of the desert well, and whenever they stopped, he flew off in search of game. On the first day, he returned with a rabbit, and on the second, 2 birds. At night, they spread their sleeping gear and kept their fires hidden. The desert nights were cold and were becoming darker and darker as the phases of the moon passed. They went on for a week, speaking only of the precautions they needed to follow in order to avoid battles between the tribes. The war continued, and at times the wind carried the sweet, sickly smell of blood. Battles had been fought nearby, and the wind reminded the boy that there was the language of omens, always ready to show him what his eyes had failed to observe. On the 7th day, the alchemist decided to make camp earlier than usual. The falcon flew off to find game, and the alchemist offered his water container to the boy. You are almost at the end of your journey, the alchemist said. I congratulate you for having pursued your personal legend. And you've told me nothing along the way, said the boy. I thought you were going to teach me some of the things you know. A while ago, I rode through the desert with a man who had books on alchemy, but I wasn't able to learn anything from them. There is only one way to learn, the alchemist answered. It's through action. Everything you need to know you have learned through your journey. You need to learn only one more thing. The boy wanted to know what that was, but the alchemist was searching the horizon, looking for the falcon. Why are you called the alchemist? Because that's what I am. And what went wrong with the other alchemist when the other alchemists tried to make gold and were unable to do so? They were looking only for gold, his companion answered. They were seeking the treasure of their personal legend without wanting actually to live out the personal legend. What is it that I still need to know? The boy asked. But the alchemist continued to look to the horizon, and finally the falcon returned with their meal. They dug a hole and lit their fire in it so that the light of the flames would not be seen. I think what he's trying to tell Santiago here is that there's no shortcut to getting to your end goal in your own personal journey, to reaching your dream. And you have to honor everything that comes up in the journey as part of the process, and not be so stuck on what's going to happen at the end. So I think it gets back to the idea that's come up time and time again in this book about trying to stay in the present moment. All right. I'm an alchemist simply because I'm an alchemist, he said as he prepared the meal. I learned the science from my grandfather, who learned from his father, and so on, back to the creation of the world. In those times, the masterwork could be written simply on an emerald, but men began to reject simple things and to write tracts, interpretations, and philosophical studies. They also began to feel that they knew a better way than others had. Yet the emerald tablet is still alive today. What was written on the emerald tablet? The boy wanted to know. The alchemist began to draw in the sand and completed his drawing in less than 5 minutes. Oh, who drew in the sand before? It was the king of Salem. Yes. All right. As he drew, the boy thought of the old king and the plaza where they had met that day. It seemed as if it had taken place years and years ago. "This is what was written on the emerald tablet," said the alchemist when he had finished. The boy tried to read what was written in the sand. "It's a code," said the boy, a bit disappointed. "It looks like what I saw in the Englishman's books." "No," the alchemist answered. "It's like the flight of those two hawks. It can't be understood by reason alone. The emerald tablet is a direct passage to the soul of the world. The wise men understood that this natural world is only an image and a copy of paradise. The existence of this world is simply a guarantee that there exists a world that is perfect. God created the world so that, through its visible objects, men could understand his spiritual teachings and the marvels of his wisdom. That's what I mean by action." "Should I understand the emerald tablet?" the boy asked. "Perhaps if you were in a laboratory of alchemy, this would be the right time to study the best way to understand the emerald tablet. But you are in the desert, so immerse yourself in it. The desert will give you an understanding of the world. In fact, anything on the face of the earth will do that. You don't even have to understand the desert. All you have to do is contemplate a simple grain of sand, and you will see it in all the marvels of creation." "How do I immerse myself in the desert?" "Listen to your heart. It knows all things because it came from the soul of the world, and it will one day return there." Time check. 5 minutes. All right. Page break. They crossed the desert for another 2 days in silence. The alchemists had become much more curious because they were approaching the area where the most violent battles were being waged. As they moved along, the boy tried to listen to his heart. They say heart, and I say inner sense of knowing. Same difference. It was not easy to do. In earlier times, his heart had always been ready to tell its story, but lately that wasn't true. There had been times when his heart spent hours telling of its sadness, and at other times it became so emotional over the desert sunrise that the boy had to hide his tears. His heart beat faster when it spoke to the boy of treasure, and more slowly when the boy stared entranced at the endless horizons of the desert. But his heart was never quiet, even when the boy and the alchemist had fallen into silence. "Why do we have to listen to our hearts?" the boy asked when they had made camp that day. "Because wherever your heart is, that is where you'll find your treasure." Okay. "But my heart is agitated," the boy said. "It has its dreams, it gets emotional, and it's become passionate over a woman of the desert. It asks things of me, and it keeps me from sleeping many nights when I'm thinking about her." "Oh, dang, homeboy's got it bad." All right. "Well, that's good. Your heart is alive. Keep listening to what it has to say." During the next 3 days, the two travelers passed by a number of armed tribesmen and saw others on the horizon. The boy's heart began to speak of fear. It told him stories it had heard from the soul of the world, stories of men who sought to find their treasure and never succeeded. Sometimes it frightened the boy with the idea that he might not find his treasure, or that he might die there in the desert. At other times, it told the boy that it was satisfied. It had found love and riches. "My heart is a traitor," the boy said to the alchemist, when they had paused to rest the horses. "It doesn't want me to go on." "That makes sense," the alchemist answered. "Naturally, it's afraid that in pursuing your dream, you might lose everything you want." "Well, then why should I listen to my heart?" "Because you'll never again be able to keep it quiet, even if you pretend not to have heard what it tells you. It will always be there inside you, repeating to you what you're thinking about life and about the world." "You mean I should listen, even if it's treasonous?" "Treason is a blow that comes unexpectedly. If you know your heart well, it will never be able to do that to you, because you'll know its dreams and wishes, and you will know how to deal with them. You will never be able to escape from your heart, so it's better to listen to what it has to say. That way, you'll never have to fear an unanticipated blow." The boy continued to listen to his heart as they crossed the desert. He came to understand its dodges and tricks, and to accept it as it was. He lost his fear and forgot about his need to go back to the oasis because one afternoon his heart told him that it was happy. "Even though I complain sometimes," it said, "it's because I'm the heart of a person, and people's hearts are that way. People are afraid to pursue their most important dreams because they feel that they don't deserve them, or that they'll be unable to achieve them. We, their hearts, become fearful just thinking of loved ones who go away forever, or of moments that could have been good but weren't, or of treasures that might have been found but were forever hidden in the sands, because when these things happen, we suffer terribly." I think that there's a lot of truth in that. For example, I'm reading this book, Untamed by Glennon Doyle, and in it she talks a lot about tapping into your inner sense of knowing. And I think we're sometimes, as humans, afraid to go after what we want because we don't want to disappoint ourselves. And sometimes we think that we're unworthy or not good enough. And that's super silly. We all know better than that. Of course we're enough. Of course we're good enough. I'm a firm believer that everyone on any given day is doing the very best they can. And I think I may have said that before in class. And I know that seems really naive, but maybe just try to believe that for a day and see how your perception changes. I'm going to stop here just to make sure that the people who have conferences today have the link. I was a little late in posting that. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Go outside, please, please, please. All right, bye. All right.